Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. So I really would like to continue with this discussion that we have been having. And I want to say just from the outset, look, the Muslims are a brotherhood. That's a fact. If a person is upon La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, uh, we have the same qibla, etc. The Muslims are all brothers. This does not mean that as brothers we won't differ. This doesn't mean that we won't have our differences. This does not mean that we won't have serious differences. But I have to say this at the outset. And the reason why I want to say this is because, again, perhaps, like they say, was it something I said? It could be. I do believe that I gave the impression. Uh, I try to be very careful in my language, but no one is perfect. And I do believe that the impression was given that um, I was that some of the videos that we've put out have been a critique about a particular group of black people, African American Muslims. Just straight up and down, that's what it is. And that's not necessarily the case. Uh, at the outset, I am critiquing outside influences that I addressed on the previous video that are really, in our view, servants of bigger interests on the global scale. That's something that we know. Okay. But I don't want to get into that too much. And because of that, I hadn't heard, like the response videos, and most of the time I had this same brother. He did something on something I did before. I mean, that guy, it's another Christian guy. What's his name? God Logic. He did a response video. He has like 500,000 followers. And I remember people sending it to me. Hey, they talking about you, talking about you. The Nation of Islam brothers did a response or did some responses to videos. I'm just like literally busy to the point where I really don't have the time to like watch a bunch of stuff like that. I would like to. So oftentimes students or friends, they'll say, well, hey, check this out, or they'll kind of give me a summary of what was said. So most recently, based upon what I've heard, the little bit in the summary fashion that I've been able to hear, and I may be saying this wrong. The impression is that uh, and look, if I I take responsibility if I communicated it wrong, but I really don't think that's what I was. I think the spirit of my communication was clear. But anyway, without getting to the detail, because what I have seen in my comments, a lot of people now, so for whatever has been put out, there's a battery in the back of a lot of people saying, yeah, we're not nationalists. It's all about Quran and Sunnah. You a nationalist. And I'm saying, look, dear brother, dear sister, be a thinker. Be a thinker. Don't let someone put a battery in your back and convince you that you know what I'm all about. Listen to what's being said and respond accordingly. Like, be fair in your judgment. That's all we could ever ask. Now, there was a particular critique that I wanted to take up to. It took me a long time to build up to it, that I do want to address in this video. And one of the critiques is regarding the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad and the assessment of the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad in terms of its authenticity as a Muslim community. In other words, is this community a deviant community? Is it off the path, etc., etc.? And I have to be quite honest. This is something that we struggle with inside of the community. I have a vantage point that I think most of the members of the community don't have, very few, which is I was in the classroom with Imam W.D. Muhammad uh, directly, and I was able to hear from him directly. And we were able to go through the Quran, ayah by ayah, directly. So my orientation towards him, like most of the people in the community, or many, a great amount, and these among the elders, they sort of see him in a very particular light as someone who brought them out of the Nation of Islam, as someone who sort of addressed or uncovered, pulled the cover off of a lot of things that they believed in, even as children. I mean, if you look at those early lectures that he gave, he was dealing with, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Easter Bunny, etc. Little Red Riding Hood. These are things that we don't even deal with anymore. But in that old world, like my mother, she told me, she said, Rashad, you have to understand, we believed coming up that Santa Claus was real. So here's a man coming, sort of addressing those mythologies and that folklore that the American public was under. So the people who came up under that stuff, they see him in a very different light than those of us who are the children of those people who didn't come up under that stuff. Like if you notice, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Little Red Riding Hood. They don't even use that stuff in the culture anymore. But when he becomes the leader, he's addressing all of these things like in actual lecture form. And if you all go back and look at that material, much of it centered on what we see on the world scene right now that's becoming very popular by speakers like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. Much of it he was really addressing as code speak for what he called the Jacobite influence over Western society, which in today's language we know is the uh, the Zionist influence over the Christian West. I'll just put it in that terminology. And on top of that, him having to sort of pull the cover off of Nation of Islam, language, mythology, etc. It's just that's a whole field of study on its own, just from a historical perspective. But in any event, that transition and that work that he had to do gave him a certain place in the hearts and minds of those people who he did it with. He literally, in their mind, he freed them. And if we are respectful of history and the conditions of people in history, we have to see why. I mean, he brought them to the religion of Al-Islam. He took them out of, or brought them from under the cover of so much of these mythological influences that are just a part of, they have been a part, and they still are, of American culture. So there's a certain reverence that the elders have. Like we call them the elders, we call them the pioneers. They have for Imam Muhammad. Everyone's outside driving today. Don't nobody be on this road like this. So that's one thing. The second thing is Imam Muhammad, his leadership style was of such nature that he was really tasked with, and I'm using that language, he established Al-Islam in America. That's a fact. We have Muslims in America, but what I'm talking about now is establishing sort of an indigenous Muslim American expression. This is evidenced by the fact that any group like our immigrant Muslim brothers and sisters who are involved in politics, they're involved in business, they're involved in interfaith dialogue, they're involved in all of these activities that represent our being, the Muslims being a part of the American fabric. Imam Muhammad was the pioneer of all of that. So at the time, it was very rare. I mean, he's coming out of the Nation of Islam, picking up the American flag. I mean, that's like blasphemy during those times. Encouraging the members of his community to become involved in American society. And just a range of things that really, what we can see 50 plus years later, when we look at other groups that are not even from his community who have picked up those sort of initiatives or those pointers, it really just represents like, look, if you want to be Muslim in America, and you want to establish community life for Muslims in America, this is the road you take. These are the relationships you build. This is how you go about building it. This is what your public rhetoric should be, etc. Imam Muhammad was in the vanguard of that. And in my view, he's really like the Imam of the Muslims in America in that. What I mean by Imam now, I'm speaking about the leader and the model. He sets the model. He sets a model that is still being implemented, I would say more so by the immigrant Muslim community, even by the African Americans, because we're busy arguing about what we're currently arguing about. But it's necessary. So one of the critiques of his community then, despite the fact, him embracing broader American society, embracing Christians and interfaith dialogue, etc., let alone him dealing with all of that mythological and symbolic language, another criticism is that, look, this community does not stand upon authentic Islamic knowledge. Now, we have to always try to be fair. If we could really do the research, one of the main complaints of the Imam himself against his own community in general, but specifically the Imams of his community, was that the Imams were not availing themselves of the opportunities, and they were not even seeking after. They didn't even show the interest, in large part, to study Al-Islam. And really, when he resigned from the organization, the community had an organization, the American Society of Muslims, ASM. I think it's like in 2003 when he finally resigned. And one of the main reasons, it was in the Chicago Tribune or something like that. It was in like several national papers. He said, look, you all refuse to study. You all refuse to follow the direction I'm pointing you all in. You can even read lectures of his. He said, look, I'm the leader of this national community. I mean, you can read this. Why should I have to come to your town and teach you fiqh and teach you these things that all Muslims should know? Your Imam should be doing that. So the critique is true. I'm saying that to say the critique that many on the outside have to say these people, this community, they don't really show signs of knowing this and that and this. It's actually a true critique. And nobody from Imam Muhammad's community can deny it. At the same time, to give a full, complete picture of the story, we also cannot deny that Imam Muhammad was the first one to offer that critique and to offer a solution. So a part of the issue that we have had with our growth and development as a group. For example, when Imam Muhammad first became the leader, there was help extended to us by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to make educational opportunities available to our imams. Okay, Bismillah. But everybody in our community knows that what ended up happening is that there was a covert effort to convert our imams away from the direction and the leadership of Imam Muhammad. That happened. They're actually popular figures who sort of they typify this problem that we had. And old wounds have been patched up, so I don't want to name any names. But it's like if you know, you know. Everyone in the community knows this. In other words, we were never offered help sincerely. We were offered help to, I don't even know how to word it. People acted, or they behaved as if they wanted to help us, but they actually wanted to just turn us into their minions, little brother or sons. That's what happened. So Imam Muhammad did not have a lot of support coming from the outside. There were other instances. I think the most successful relationship that we built in terms of study and access to traditional Islamic knowledge sources was the relationship that he formed with the Grand Mufti at the time, Sheikh Ahmed Kuftaro. May Allah forgive him his sins and grant him paradise. And we have students that went off to Damascus, Syria, such as, Imam Suleiman, who's still the Imam, been serving for a long time now in Atlanta, Georgia, Imam Mansour Sabri, and both of their wives, Imam Tariq Najiallah, he spent some time there. I'm not sure if his wife did, but I know that, Sister Sweya Haq, who actually she married a brother, so she ended up staying when our students, as if I understand the history correctly, when our students came back home, but she went on to progress in her study of the recitation of the Quran, etc., etc. So the Imam was keenly aware of the need of the community, and he made efforts to address that need. And those of us who are around today, like we're the children of the elders, we're aware of the need. And like I said, I have a certain vantage point where I was able to hear the Imam directly, and I was able to receive from him what he said, the interest that he had for the community are. And at the same time, I'm able to observe the quote unquote elders and come into an awareness of where the community is falling short. So we have been working, I would say in a painstaking kind of way. We have really been working to, just like down in Atlanta, just like in other places in our community, those of us who have been and are continuing to study the religion from authentic sources, and at the same time stay in contact with the direction of our leader, we have been working hard to bring the community along the path so that we grow more and more in the knowledge of Islam. The elders, they are who they are. Like I was watching the video of one brother, and he was just saying, basically, don't even argue with them at this point. They are who they are. And I agree with that. Like, we don't do that. But as a student of Imam Muhammad, as a student of Islamic knowledge, and as a member of the community, I'm keenly aware. Like, I've been in some very, what do you call it, uncomfortable, or what they call cringy situations where you kind of know, like, man, this person is talking on our behalf, and this is embarrassing. I wish he would stop. I get it. But I would say this in conclusion. There's a couple things I want to say, but I want to say this. Number one, what is often not respected by the so-called students of knowledge, and I'm saying so-called for a reason, because it's one thing to have knowledge, it's another thing to have wisdom and have humility. And one of the things that's not respected in our view is that, look, these are communities in process. This is an evolutionary process. We are coming into what we're coming into. Meaning what? That again, we were in the Nation of Islam. Hell, before that, we were Christians. So here we are having to come out of all of that into al-Islam. And here's a man, Imam W.D. Muhammad, who converted tens of thousands without any bloodshed. brought tens of thousands of people into al-Islam. Just for that alone, he is credited with being a wali of God, according to the people who know. This is what we know. Um, Now, he even said, I may not have done everything correctly, but the intention and the direction of the leader, that's what has to really be looked at. Like, is the overall direction wrong to bring tens and thousands of people into al-Islam, to establish Islam in America in a way that it would accommodate the growth of Islam for future generations, uh, black or non-black? This is what his work really has been. And a lot of the younger people who are afforded opportunity to study, and I say young, I'm talking about 50, 40, 30, there's an arrogance that young people tend to have where we return, we come back home, and it's just like the miseducation of the Negro. You know what I'm saying? We want to come to the congregation with everything that we learned from where we just came from without respecting the history of the congregation, the sensitivities of the congregation, et cetera, and not really having an agenda particular to the people, the congregation that we claim to serve. All we know is what we learned in this or that book and what we heard from this or that sheikh, etc. And we just want to apply that in that circumstance or in that African American community, Imam Muhammad's community or otherwise. And when the community is not receptive to it, we're not even respecting where that community is. We're just trying to come with what we know. Now we want to write the community off as if, oh, you all don't respect knowledge. You all are this, you all are that. And then there's a lack of mercy, in my opinion, there's a lack of mercy in terms of sympathizing with an elder generation. Like my father-in-law, he said, Rashad, I was called nigger every day of my life. Just like my mama said, we grew up believing in Santa Claus. So it's very easy to say, oh, these elders are just, what's wrong with them? It's very, but when you understand it from that angle, it's very easy to understand why they would love a particular man and really have a certain attachment to him to such a degree that from the outside to you, it may look a bit fanatical. It may look a bit cultish even. I'm saying that with respect for my parents and my elders. I can understand how you all see that. I can understand how that is seen from the outside. But at the same time, as mature students of knowledge, as people of wisdom and humility, you have to be able to say, or to at least see, I get, if I'm looking at the whole context, I get it. I see what the issue is. And now let me, as a student, having benefited from the sacrifices of these people, because most of the properties that Muslims, African American Muslims are in to this day, even if currently to this day they're not followers of Imam Muhammad, most of those properties, those school buildings, etc., were purchased by these people who we condemn. And those people went out and did the work to achieve that because they were on the spirit. They had the spirit and the intention to be Muslim. And their hope was that the future generation would take up their work and advance it, not take up the work or take the property or take the credit and then condemn. That's the way of the ignorant people. So these discussions are absolutely necessary because like I used to do counseling, and you all who do counseling, you can't really move forward in any relationship if the husband and the wife both think they're right and they both think that the other person is wrong. Can't be that way. It has to be, everybody has to own up to the role that they have played in the issue, and they have to be honest. Say, I was wrong in this, you were wrong in that. And they said, that person said, yeah, I was wrong, but you were wrong in this. And then look, let's move down the road. Because ultimately, what we have to conclude is that my belief is at least, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, highly glorified as He, wants for us to be unified as an ummah. This is what we're commanded to do. And we should be searching for the means by which to do that. However, what we will not do and what we will not accept is to be slandered, to be lied upon, uh, uh, and to be misrepresented. And we reserve the right to state what our position is and why our position is the way it is. So in the next video, I'm going to now address, from my view, not Imam Muhammad as a leader, but Imam Muhammad as a teacher. And I have a very specific challenge, not a challenge, but an offer to those listening, those who take issue. I'm going to say it then, but I'll say it now. You all have open access to me. I'm saying that for the public. We can do it. We can sit publicly. We can sit privately. It doesn't really matter. And I can offer to you what we mean when we say Imam Muhammad is my teacher. And Imam Muhammad gave commentary on the Quran, etc., etc. And the only person, well, I'll just leave it there. We'll go into more details of that later. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.